right now, things around the world and things in the country are looking pretty dire. To paraphrase a guy called Noam Chomsky, you might have heard of him. There are a couple of dark clouds hanging over our future as a species, and one of them is nuclear annihilation, which maybe is looking less likely, and one of them is environmental catastrophe, which is looking darker and darker by the day, unfortunately. Look, right now, geologists have named a new geological era, a new geological age. We have entered the Anthropocene. Right now, this is the Anthropocene, the age of man, because for the first time in Earth's history, we are more powerful than all of the natural geological forces on the Earth combined. We're changing the chemistry of the atmosphere, we're changing the chemistries of the ocean, we're moving more sediment and more nutrients around the face of the planet than all of the waves, and all of the wind, all of everything else. You know, we're pretty powerful. Shame. Sorry? The age of humanity. Absolutely, women are involved. Thank you. And it's not just the geologists. It's not just the geologists who are telling us things. Ecologists and paleontologists are calling this period in time the 6th Great Extinction. There have been 5 other extinctions up until this point, and the most recent one was when a giant asteroid, about 10 kilometers wide, hit the planet and wiped out all of the dinosaurs. You may have learned about that in school. There are a couple of really good books written about this, one by a guy called Richard Leakey and another one just recently written by Elizabeth Colbert. These scientists are telling us that we're wiping out the planet species at a rate comparable to that seen in the last 5 great extinction events. This is very scary. Though this time the science are telling us that we are the destructive force. We are as detrimental to life on Earth as a 10-kilometer asteroid. Let that sink in. Just to quantify that, Professor Mike Coffin at the University of Tasmania has calculated that in about 200 years we will have wiped out 75% of the species on the planet. Moving on, the oceans are not the place they used to be. Marine biologists are telling us there aren't that many fish left in the sea. Many of the world's fisheries are on or beyond collapse. The Great Barrier Reef and the fact that most coral reefs around the world are in crisis. Rising sea levels, rising ocean temperatures, oceanic acidification. The oceans are acidifying faster than they have for 300 million years. Invasive species introduced by man and women and pollution in the environment are all impacting the health of the ocean, these oceanic rainforests that we have. These are biodiversity hotspots. And we're going to build coal ports through the Great Barrier Reef. Not in our name. Incidentally, just so you know, burning coal is also the primary source of mercury pollution in the ocean, which is another serious problem that we probably don't hear enough about. Moving on to another important issue. Climate scientists. Climate scientists like James Lovelock are telling us that it's already too late to avoid climate catastrophe. Others are perhaps more optimistic, but the optimistic climate scientists are getting fewer and farther between. As we release 300 million years worth of sequestered carbon dioxide. For 300 million years, carbon dioxide has been taken out of the atmosphere, put into coal deposits and petrol deposits and gas deposits. We are reversing 300 million years of climate change in just 200 years. We're going to run out of these fossil fuel deposits. We're going to release 300 million years worth of carbon dioxide, sequestered carbon dioxide, back into the atmosphere. Climate change has never happened this quickly, as far as we know, in the history of the planet. This is going to be a bit of a challenge for the bloodied and bruised biodiversity of the planet as it stands. They are probably not going to be able to adapt fast enough to this climate change. So, this is what science is telling us. And our government, since coming into office, has dissolved the science portfolio which has existed since the 1930s. It is particularly distressing to realise that we have a Minister for Anzac Day and not a Minister for Science. And if that was not enough, 15,000 jobs have just been cut from the CSIRO this year. This is our primary research organisation on the planet. That is a quarter of all of our scientists have lost their jobs. Not in our name. It is simply unconscionable to deny and ignore the science any longer. We, as one of the wealthiest and apparently most educated countries on the planet, We have the responsibility of privilege on our shoulders, more so than almost anyone else. We have the potential to be setting the world an example. Yet we are in this position of privilege and power, and our government is silent. Though we, as a nation, are disproportionately responsible for the crises of biodiversity and climate. We have an average per capita ecological footprint of 7.8 global hectares, nearly 4 times higher than the average, and is what is sustainable. For everyone to live the lifestyle of an average Australian, we would require 2 or 3 more planets just to supply enough resources. This is something to think about. Our responsibility, absolutely. And look, it goes beyond climate change now. Climate change isn't the only issue. If climate change wasn't an issue, we'd still be on a course for disaster. This isn't about saving species anymore. This is about absolute and total ecological catastrophe. And it's happening. It's happening right now. It's not something that's going on in the future. It is literally occurring right now. Species are going extinct. The rainforests are nearly gone. The coral reefs are dissolving. You know, the oceans are acidifying. There's some pretty serious shit going on, and not in our name. Look, I hope I haven't depressed anyone too much, but that's about enough for me. I've thought of a couple of chants, is that okay? The war on science, and war on the environment. Thank you very much. This is probably